Welcome to Legends of Antiquity, where history breathes and the voices of the past echo into the present. I am your host, Tuwagiani Besa, and today we embark on a journey through the untold legend of one of history's greatest freedom fighters, Queen Nanny of the Maroons. A warrior, a spiritual leader, a strategist, and a mother of resistance, Queen Nanny's legacy stands as a symbol of defiance against colonial oppression and as a beacon of African survival in the Caribbean. But to truly understand her greatness, we must first explore her origins. Before slavery, during the horrors of captivity, her unwavering stand against British rule, and the lasting impact she left behind after her death. This is the story of a woman who defied an empire, and if you think this was just a passive resistance, you'd be mistaken. Queen Nanny and the Maroons fought with a brutality that matched the violence inflicted upon them by the British. They understood one truth: this was war, and war required bloodshed. This is the story of a queen who did not just resist, she struck fear into the hearts of her oppressors. This is the legend of Queen Nanny before slavery. Before the chains of slavery, before she was a fugitive in the mountains of Jamaica, Nanny was a free woman. She was born among the Akan people, likely of the Ashanti or Fanti tribes in present-day Ghana. The Akan were not strangers to war. War was in their blood. They fought against rival tribes, against slavers, against European invaders. The Ashanti in particular had a reputation for their military prowess. Their warriors moved in disciplined units, fought in coordinated attacks, and wielded weapons with skill. Women in Ashanti society were not merely homemakers. They were fighters, strategists, and priestesses. They knew how to prepare poisons, how to use herbs for both healing and killing, and how to invoke spirits for protection. Nanny grew up in this world. It is said she was trained in the ways of war from a young age, learning the use of the machete, the bow, the spear. She would have witnessed raids, battles, and ceremonies honoring the spirits of warriors. Her people did not kneel to foreign powers, but even warriors fall prey to betrayal and greed. The transatlantic slave trade was ripping Africa apart. Some chiefs, desperate for European goods, sold their own people into slavery. Others were captured in battles, bound in chains, and sold to the highest bidder. Nanny was among those taken. The birth of a rebel leader. The Middle Passage was a living hell. Enslaved Africans were crammed into the belly of the ship, shackled together, left in filth and disease. Women were raped, men were beaten. The air was thick with death. Some chose to jump overboard, preferring to drown than to be taken as slaves. Nanny survived, but she did not break. When she arrived in Jamaica, she was sold to a plantation. The British colonists were ruthless, extracting every ounce of labor from the enslaved. Whippings, amputations, executions. These were daily occurrences. But there was always resistance. Nanny and her brothers Cudjoe, Akompong, Johnny, and Kwao had one goal: escape. They fled into the mountains, joining a growing number of runaway slaves who called themselves the Maroons. These fugitives did not hide. They fought. And in time they found their greatest leader in Queen Nanny. The fight against the British. Once free, Nanny built Nanny Town, a Maroon stronghold deep in the Blue Mountains. From this hidden fortress, she and her warriors waged war against the British. The Maroons were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the British did not: knowledge of the land, mastery of guerrilla warfare, and the sheer will to fight to the death. The Maroons did not fight like conventional armies. They hunted the British. Ambushes. They struck at dawn or dusk, melting out of the trees, slaughtering British troops before they had time to react. They moved in silence, with their bodies covered in plant oils to avoid detection by hunting dogs. Camouflage and decoys. Nanny's warriors would smear themselves with mud, leaves, and tree bark, blending into the jungle. Sometimes they would place straw dummies in the open, luring British soldiers into a false sense of victory, only to ambush them from the trees. The art of trapping. The Maroons mastered the art of setting deadly traps. They dug spike pits lined with sharpened bamboo, covering them with leaves. British troops would fall in, impaled through the body. Those who survived were often left to bleed out, their cries echoing through the jungle, warning others not to follow. The silent death tactic. Nanny's warriors were trained in the silent kill, garroting British soldiers with vines or slitting their throats in the dark. Many British soldiers disappeared into the forest, never to be seen again. Psychological warfare. Nanny knew that war was not just about killing, it was about breaking the enemy's spirit. She and her warriors used fear as a weapon. Decapitations and dismemberment. After a battle, Maroons would cut off the heads of British soldiers and place them on stakes along the trails. Others were hung upside down from trees, their bodies gutted and left to rot. The sight was enough to make many British troops desert or refuse to go on patrol. Blood rituals. It is said that Nanny would drain the blood of British soldiers, using it in rituals to strengthen her warriors. Some accounts claim she even drank their blood, though this may have been exaggerated by the British to demonize her. Boiling the flesh. In extreme cases, the British reported that captured soldiers were boiled in pots and their remains scattered in the rivers, echoing African traditions of using enemy remains to ward off evil. British desperation. The British, humiliated and terrified, sent their best troops to crush the Maroons. They burned Nanny Town to the ground multiple times, but Nanny and her people rebuilt. The British accused her of witchcraft, claiming she could catch bullets in her hands and turn invisible. But there was no magic, only strategy, discipline, and an undying hatred for the slavers. The legacy of a queen. In 1739, after years of war, the British finally surrendered. They signed a treaty with the Maroons, giving them land in exchange for peace. But for Nanny, the war was never over. The treaty forced the Maroons to return runaway slaves to the British, a betrayal she did not accept. Some say she was assassinated by British agents. Others claim she died of old age, watching over her people until the end. But her spirit never died. Today, Queen Nanny is a national hero of Jamaica, her face printed on the $500 bill. Her name is spoken with reverence in Maroon communities where the sound of drums still echoes in the mountains she once ruled. Queen Nanny's war was a war for freedom, dignity, and the survival of her people. She did not just resist, she fought, bled, and killed to ensure that no man, woman, or child would ever be enslaved again. Her legacy is proof that the oppressors can be defeated. This has been the Legends of Antiquity. I am your host, Tuwagiani Besa. Until next time, stand strong, fight back, and never forget, freedom is never given, it is taken. Blessings and love.